Aiy-yu-kwee, and this is my channel, The Midnight Librarian. And today I am going to do a couple tags. So I'm going to combine these tags because I've been wanting to do both, and I figured because it's Native American Heritage Month and Indigathon, it seems like the appropriate time to do the Indigenous Bookworm tag created by Michelle over at There Wants Another Letter, as well as the Indigathon 2020 book tag created by Michelle and Brody for Indigathon. So I'll leave their links down in the description down below. So I'm going to start with the Indigenous Bookworm tag created by Michelle, just so that you learn a little bit about me as an Indigenous book reviewer, booktuber, whatever. I will apologize in advance if some of these answers are a little repetitive. I do hope to do both of these tags in the future as I get more reading done and get some more Indigenous authors under my belt. So I apologize if there is some repetitiveness, but this is what I have at the moment. So question 1 for the Indigenous Bookworm tag is Hoka Hey, introduce yourself and the clan or tribe that you're from, whether they're federally recognized or terminated or however it all counts. And so hi, Aiy-yu-kwee, I Nekna Malita. So hi, my name is Melita. I am a Yurok tribal member and a Modoc, Hoopa, Karuk, and Shasta descendant. I do have some other tribes I'm descended from, however, those are the main ones that I connect with directly, if that makes sense. Those are the local ones that I have interactions with, that I learn from, that I have family in, that I learned from. So, and those are the most comfortable for me. Question 2 is Native Things That Just Make Sense, what is my favorite book with Indigenous characters, and that would have to be Elasaway by Darcy Little Badger. I absolutely love this book. I will leave my review for it in the cards and in the description down below. This follows Ellie, who is Lipan Apache and asexual, and she lives in a world that's very similar to our own, except that cultural lore creatures are real. So vampires are real, fae are real, and in her particular line of family, they are able to call the ghosts of the dead. Preferably animals. They stay away from calling back ghosts of humans. And her cousin ends up dying and comes to her in a dream. He tells her he was murdered and asks her to take care of his family and to find out why he was murdered. So her and her friends and family go down. This is based in Texas. They go to another place in Texas to figure out what's going on, and there's something more deceitful than she had originally thought. So that is going on, and she hopes to expose that. So it's really cute, really well balanced, and I absolutely loved all the discussions that it had, and it's such a supportive story. Question 3 is Regalia. What is your most colorful book or book aesthetic that you lean towards? And to show our regalia if we're comfortable with it. For this, the 2 books I'm going to show are books I tend to gravitate towards like immediately. I graduated from university with an art degree and very, very much base a book off its cover. I dislike when people call that shallow. I will end up looking at a synopsis to make sure that I enjoy it. However, the cover is marketing. It is and I love it when it happens to coincide perfectly with the book. But also, I am a sucker for illustrated covers, not of characters. I mean, everything's arbitrary, and art is no different. Same with books. And I'm gonna like what I'm gonna like. I love my aesthetic. So these 2 books I have not read yet. I adore their covers. Neither one of them are by Indigenous authors, so just putting that out there. But the first is The Book of M by Pang Shepherd. This is the UK version. I will go out of my way to go get a better version of the book if there's one out there. I love comparing UK covers to US covers. It tends to be very interesting to me in how we choose certain covers and what that is. I'm happy also to get this in hardcover because I understand that outside the US, hardcover tends to be less popular. I happen to literally love them despite their uncomfortability of trying to read in bed. But yeah, I believe this book is about an apocalypse, something like that. So even though I tend to read the synopsises before I buy them just to make sure that I will enjoy them, I tend to forget them quite quickly. This book is absolutely gorgeous. I tend to particularly really enjoy illustrated covers that play with the font of the title of the book, and this one does that perfectly. I also really love that bright pink spine, the dark blues. I absolutely love it. The next book I have is Folk by Zoe Gilbert. Both of these I've been meaning to read and I just haven't, but it's another one that plays with the title and I absolutely love it. I love the illustrations. I do have another book with Aiy-yu-kwee. Rovina Kai was the illustrator, and although I love the cover for Aiy-yu-kwee, to me there's a slight disconnect with the story of the book, and so it's easy for me to say that I love the covers of these particular books because I haven't read them yet, so to compare them to the story hasn't happened. But I love Rovina Kai's illustrations, and this one, latest publication that came out with her illustration as the cover, I want as a print that I can hang on my wall, and that is The Fourth Island by Sarah Tolmie. Absolutely gorgeous. Love it. Like I said, I am a sucker for illustrated covers. Now for Regalia, I actually have a model here. Let me see if I can move you so you can get a better look. It's not a complete Regalia set. This is one that I have been working on, and it really hasn't taken me that long. It's just that I work in it in spurts, and I work as a independent illustrator when I'm not at work, so that tends to take priority because I'm not getting paid to make regalia. So just so you know, this is not complete, and I will explain what other parts of the regalia are missing that I have yet to acquire. But, and excuse the mess. So yes, this is my regalia. This is the beaded cape, and this is the apron. And then normally, typically, it looks messier in the thing than it does, than I think it does in person. But this is also my studio space, so paint, stuff, books. It's also where I keep a lot of my books, not most of them, but a lot of them. So hence the mess. I just haven't cleaned up in a while. But yes, this is my regalia that I've been working on. It typically would have the back, or what we would call the skirt, going around to wrap around the front, around to the front, but not to completely take away from this. And then as well as minks or ermine hair ties and a cap or a halo. That is my regalia. I also have, so that's the regalia that I personally have been working on. I also have regalia that my mom has made for me that I can no longer fit, but it was, but that is also, I can put a picture here. As she's allowed me to share the photo. So yeah, it's still under her care. It will continue to be under her care until she passes it along to me, but she does ask me. We do loan it out to people to dance in because I still want it to dance. I will eventually want this one to dance as well. That would be amazing. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to dance this summer. Question 4 is Aunt and Uncle. What is your favorite Indigenous movie? I would have to say Code Talker. I'm a sucker for Adam Beach. Sorry, Danny. I'm always kind of iffy with Nicolas Cage, though I don't, just because he's a little unpredictable for me. Question 5 is Frybread or bannock. And then what is your favorite trope? I would have to say Frybread, mostly because I haven't had bannock. I actually didn't know what that was until I joined the Indigenous Book Reviewers group on Instagram. So that was I hope to at some point. And then my favorite trope would have to be, I enjoy like the reluctant chosen one, of where they feel like they have to do something for the greater good but don't really want to. They tend to be morally gray but have a good reason for doing so, like someone or the society has let them down somehow and now everyone's reliable on them to save the world or something. I tend to enjoy that, and it also really depends on how the author does it. There's been a couple of books where I thought I disliked a particular trope, and then an author wrote it a certain way, and I found that I loved it or didn't mind it as, yeah. So it really just depends on how it's written. But so far, I've enjoyed the reluctant hero. Question 6 is Gramma's the best. Who is your favorite auto by Indigenous author? I haven't had an auto by yet, just cause I don't know. Like, I have a couple of books from a couple Indigenous authors. I wouldn't necessarily call them an auto buy though. One that I keep wanting to buy from, that I keep holding back from because I'm pretty sure my mom has all of her books, and if I and it keeps telling me to just go look, and I just haven't yet, but every time I see her books online I just want to purchase them, and that's Joy Harjo. She is the first Native American poet, U.S. poet laureate, and she is absolutely adored in our local community. She's come for our Native American Children's Authors Festival, as well as she's my mom's pretty good friends with her, so she always is such a lovely person to be around and such an inspiration. I have yet to read any of her books, but every time I see them online, I want to purchase them, and I hear my mom in my head going, "No, just check my bookshelf," and I'm just like, "But I want them for myself." The next question is, because I forget what number I'm on, is All Nations. What is the book that made you feel most represented? I'd have to say Lots Away, honestly. I know that's a repeat answer, but I absolutely adored it. It really did surprise me. I wasn't sure what discussions would be had in this book, and there were certain things, there was little things that would get mentioned that I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, Ellie has a pigmentation thing where scars keep on her skin for a really long time, and I have that too. So I can't bruise worth a damn, but man, I still have cat scratches from when I was 9, up and down my arms, that I have to constantly explain. So yeah, that was fun in general, but as well as there were certain aspects, even though I am not live panapatchy or asexual, there were just certain discussions that were had in A Lots Away that I felt were just a breath of fresh air when they were mentioned. It was kind of I literally went yes when it was brought up. So I absolutely love that book. The next question is, they say Native girls look mean. Who is your favorite female character? Author. So I talked about Joy Harjo. I also talked about Darcy Little Badger. This one, Xiomara from The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I absolutely adored her as a character, as she was trying to find herself and trying to find her voice. She was definitely one that I wanted to take care of. The next question is Star Quilt. What is something that you hold dear from your culture? Beadwork or handmade things. I think it's like something tangible, and that would have to be our regalia. I was always told and instructed on how to care for them and how to hold them, so or how to care for them, and as well as how to make it so there's a lot of breakables on it. A lot of our dangles that make that pretty rain noise are shells or dew claws from deer. Yeah, we use a lot of delicate things, as well as it's on leather, it's on something that can be deteriorated. My mom has instilled in me that if there was ever a fire or a natural disaster, to immediately get the regalia out of the house and into safety, like before anything else. All of our regalia has a hard case suitcase next to them. Even though this one's on a mannequin right now. Earlier this year when the fires were a problem, even though we weren't particularly in any immediate danger, all the regalia was packed up in easy accessible and inaccessible areas in case we had to go somewhere. And the next question is, don't whistle at night. What's a scary story you were told, as well as any favorite horror thriller books? Yeah, I was told not to whistle at night. I was also told not to wander graveyards alone or at night. Wandering around at night, there was a couple things, and it was like, from an outside perspective, it sounds like a bunch of stuff that you would tell children to get them to behave. And maybe that was the case. But there was a particular creature was going to come get you. This creature, and the reason why I'm saying creature rather than its name is because there's, it's also that if you say it, you're inviting it to you. So I'll insert the name. I don't necessarily know. I've heard of other creatures in other parts of the U.S. and from other nations that have similarities to them, characteristics. This one in particular, I was always told was a shapeshifter, and the only way you can tell that it is what it is because it has red eyes, that they take people and they never come back. If it was just a story to scare children off, it definitely worked. Particularly with my paternal grandfather, who said that he swore that he had contact with one. It tried to break into his house. He shot at it like it was a human. He shot at them, and what ended up taking off was a dog. Yeah, that's something that, like, I don't mess with. You don't mess with that. And in terms of favorite horror or thriller book, I mean, from an Indigenous author, I haven't read very many horror thrillers, but that would have to be The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This follows four Blackfeet men who end up going elk hunting, and it's the last day of the season. They're getting desperate, so they end up going into a portion of the woods where they're not supposed to be hunting and end up killing a bunch of elk a bit unethically, and find that later they're being hunted by elk-head women for the deeds that they have done. So this one was fairly creepy. There's a lot of content warning for blood, injuries, death, animals and humans, as elk-head woman hunts them down one at a time. So that was particularly really creepy for me, but at the same time I was like rooting for elk-head woman, because we do get her perspective. Another one that I thought was particularly really fascinating. I can't say I enjoyed this book, but it had good discussions, and that is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is like a booktube darling, I'm feeling like, with a couple of his other books. I know this book in particular and My Best Friend's Exorcism and Horror Store. I read this earlier this year, and like I said, I didn't particularly enjoy it. This made me feel things. I felt gross. I felt creeped out. Like I said, it has a lot of good discussion. Ultimately, this gave me anxiety because there were so many things that he put in here that was just overall fairly frightening. There was this like lack of control for our main protagonist, who is female. Also, the picking off of minorities because no one would miss them. Oh my god. So there were so many things in here. Like I said, I particularly did not enjoy reading this book. I felt icky the whole time. I felt stressed the whole time. But I do feel like it has some discussion points. The next question is, he even drinks water. Indigenous. Who is your favorite Indigenous actors or actresses? So I feel like there's not very many that are well known, and I don't watch a whole lot of movies. Like I said, Adam Beach is one of my favorites. Loved Law and Order when he was there. Was pissed when he wasn't. I had wanted to love Suicide Squad until he died within the first 5 minutes. I'm still not over that. That like went downhill as soon as that happened. Otherwise, I did have to look them up. But yeah, Graham Greene, he was always been funny. I loved him in Maverick and Thunderheart with Val Kilmer. And then there was one I saw, but I can't recall where I seen him in. But that is, I believe, Eddie Spears. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot. Like I said, I'm not a big movie watcher, so that makes it difficult. But hopefully I can add to that list in the future for the Indigathon 2020 book tag. So the point of this tag is to answer all the questions with Indigenous authored books. The first question is, what is your favorite book? And it's a repetitive answer, I'm sorry. Read it. Question 2 is, what's the book that you recommend most to people? Can you guess? Read it. However, I do also recommend, recommend There by Tommy Orange. I think this one's very important. Question 3 is, what book did you pick up because of a recommendation? And that would be Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. This book follows Johnny Appleseed. He is Two-Spirit. He is Indigathon, who is trying to find his place within his culture as well as in society. Love the cover, first off. Love that. One of the first ones that I picked up based on recommendations. So yeah, and I'm really happy that I did. I think it's really important, and it broke my heart a couple times. It really did. Question 4 is, what is your most recent read? I just finished Future Home of the Living God by Louise Erdrich. This one was interesting. This is basically a journal. So Cedar is Ojibwe, and she was adopted out at a very young age to a white family. She is writing in a journal as society. This is kind of like a dystopian of sorts. It's futuristic. There's something wrong. Pregnancies are getting harder and harder to survive, not just for the mother but for the baby as well. And society has broken down. Federal government has broken down. It is now like little mini governments. And Cedar is writing her journey as she finds out to her unborn child, who at the beginning of this book is 4 months along. So it was fairly stressful reading this, particularly because I was reading it during the 2020 election. So that was... I don't recommend doing that. I have mixed feelings about it. Still trying to figure it out. Still trying to sort out my feelings on this. So hopefully get a review soon. But the one that I am currently reading right now is Winter Counts by David Heska Wanbley-Whedon. I'm buddy reading this with Kim over at Native Lady Book Warrior. And so far I'm little less than halfway through, but have been marking it up like crazy. One follows Virgil Wounded Horse. He is kind of a vigilante of sorts on his reservation. Tribal policing only goes so far, and the federal policing, federal jurisdiction won't do anything that's anything less than murder. So when justice is denied for his people, Virgil steps in. But when strong drugs are coming into the reservation and his nephew ends up overdosing, Virgil takes it upon himself to try to get to the bottom of where the drugs are coming from and to get them off the reservation. Question 5 is, what is my next read? I have been looking at my TBR pile, and I'm really looking at How I Became a Ghost by Tim Tingle. This follows, I believe, I don't know why I keep looking back here. It just has blurbs. It doesn't have a synopsis, but I believe this follows a young Choctaw boy who is a ghost, and he talks about how he became a ghost, I believe, through the Trail of Tears. So it's a relatively short book, and I wanted to get through it. Wanted to bust it out real quick. I also wanted to get to A Girl Called Echo, Volume 1, The Pemmican Wars by Katharina Vermette, Scott B. Henderson, and Donovan E. Yakuk. So this is following a Matisse girl who ends up, she's struggling because she's in a new place and a new school, and she takes a history class and finds herself transported to different aspects of history. So it'll be really fun too. And the final question for the Indigathon 2020 book tag is, what 2020 release do you want to read before the end of the year? This has been on multiple TBRs of mine, and I just haven't gotten to it. I know I just picked up those two, How I Became a Ghost and The Pemmican Wars. But I want to do that after reading Winter Counts. But this is definitely on my I want to read list before the end of the year. This technically came out in 2019 in Canada. This particular one came out this year in the US. So, and this one follows a woman whose husband ended up disappearing, and after she's slowly starting to heal from his disappearance, someone shows up on the neighborhood that looks like her husband, but when confronted, he doesn't recall who she is, doesn't know who her husband is, and basically wants to spread the word of God. Something smells funny about this whole situation, so she tries to dig in deeper about it. Tries to dig deeper into it. So I've been wanting to read this. This is another stunning cover that I absolutely love. The play. That was the Indigenous Bookworm tag, as well as the Indigathon 2020 book tag. Indigenous Bookworm tag. Yeah. If you have read any of the books that I put up, let me know what your thoughts are. Please, no spoilers in the comments. Otherwise, I am on a variety of different platforms of social media: Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads. I am most active on Instagram though. There's still social injustice going on. Please do your research. Please share where you can, donate where you can. Yeah, just all kinds of things. And also, just because the election is over does not mean the pandemic is over. Please wear your mask, stay 6 feet apart, stay home, wash your hands. Otherwise, I hope you are in the mental mindset to enjoy your reading, and I will see you again soon. Choo!